Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. The second item of the order, I invite the clerk to read out the second item of the order paper today.
Mr. President, the second item is the election of the President of the Pan-African Parliament Youth Caucus.
Election of the Chairperson, the Caucus on Youth.
Parce que ici c'est écrit élection.
Because here we have election of the Chairperson of the Caucus on Youth. What is it about?
Élection du président.
Election of the Chairperson of the Caucus.
Secrétariat général.
Yesterday, we did announce one single candidacy. Today, you have two of them. Can you explain to the chamber what happened?
Yesterday, we had one candidate, but today we received another candidature. So we have now received two before the elections.
J'invite
I'd like to invite the candidates to introduce themselves. Mr. President, please. The Pan-African Mr. President.
Could be made on a specific date, and it wasn't announced yesterday. And then we can start see what the rules of procedures say. It would be very serious if the clerk did not announce the candidate yesterday, and now we claim that the nomination was made a few days ago. I see it this morning.
Excuse me. Point of order, Mr. President. Clarification, please. Point of
order, Mr. President. Honorable Kellyan.
Mr. President.
Honorable Kellyan, have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Only in respect of the nomination of the President and the Vice Presidents do we need announcement of a candidature 7 days before the election. And in an extraordinary circumstance, it can be 3 days before. This is for the nomination for the youth, and nominations from the floor can be accepted because the rules are silent on it.
Yes, because the rules are silent on the nominations.
Mr. President. Yeah? Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. President, let us be fair. From our caucus, we nominated our candidate and we submitted the papers to the clerk of our caucus. If something went wrong, that has to be a systematic block for our region and for our candidate, which is unacceptable, Mr. President. We have to be fair. Our candidate has the right to contest for the seat. Thank you very much.
Dear colleagues, there's nothing against a specific region. I would like you to withdraw what you said. You are the one who wrote this letter. I don't even know what you're talking about. This is a letter dated 10 May, and today is the 10th of May, so I don't know who's been blocking the candidature. And this is a letter that you signed today. Why would you want to look for problems where there aren't any? This is a letter I received. It was signed by Honorable Abdulaziz Mohammed, and it's dated the 10th of May. So I don't know how it happened. Point of order. Point of order.
Monsieur le Président.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Monsieur le Président. Mr. President. Moi, je pense que...
President, I think that the candidature received this morning cannot can be received if we are in line with the rules of procedure. Yesterday we announced the candidature of Honorable Mohammed, and we have to abide by the rules of procedure.
Mr. President.
Point of order, Mr.
Point
President.
of order.
Mr. President.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am from the Eastern Caucus, and we nominate a candidate from our region at the 3rd of May. And I don't know the mistake where it happens. So there should be a consideration to accept our candidate. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Point on, Monsieur le Président.
Honorable President. Honorable President. Thank you, President. Thank you.
President.
Honorable President, may I take the floor, Honorable President? I believe that the problem we're facing here is a matter of the handing in of the candidature. It's true that the colleagues nominate the candidate during the meeting of their caucus, and the person who is in charge of depositing this candidature didn't do it, and it was only handed in this morning. And this is where the rub lies. So the problem is not a caucus that had a problem. It is a matter of submitting the candidature. This is where the problem lies. So that means the candidature was only received this morning, and I consider that it's not valid.
Oui, Monsieur le Président. Moi, je voudrais dire que...
Honorable President, the East African Caucus has not acted in transparency, and that was why the candidature was delayed.
Yeah. Point of...
President, there's a problem with your office. Hatukupati. Mheshimiwa, hatukupati. Mike, tafadhali. Mike, tafadhali. Hatukupati.
Honorable President. Honorable President.
Phone, please. We can't get you. Please, microphone.
Swahili.
No, it's a bit. Mike, tafadhali. Kiingereza kula kwa ameweka pia hao. No, you go to B. You go to B.
Why?
When somebody's speaking English. Yeah. You go to B.
B ndio naongea kwa Kiingereza.
Hapana.
Umeshaharibu. Toa.
Mheshimiwa Rais, Mashariki imewasilisha jina.
Yes.
They had given the secretary of the caucus.
If the name.
Mike, please.
No, mbona mimi namsikia.
Kuna tatizo kwenye...
There is a problem in your office. It is. We didn't hear him first. Excuse us, Mr. President. It's coming, Mr. Yes, please. Here's that the East African Caucus presented its nomination through the secretary. If there is a problem, it is the problem of your office. It is there. It says that they submitted their nomination to the secretary. If the name was not submitted to you earlier, it is the fault. There is a problem in the office.
Discuss, are we unified or not? Surely there's nothing in the rules that says you cannot present a candidature in the morning. There's nothing in the rules that says we should not have a democratic election. Why don't we do that? Why must we fight amongst ourselves? Let's do it. Who wins, who wins.
Yes?
Voilà, merci. Moi, je voudrais que...
Thank you. I want us to stop accusing the administration. We are faced with a situation, yes. Now, if the East African region submitted their candidature on the 3rd, it should be dated the 3rd and not the 10th. So there is a problem. What I'm saying is that if indeed this situation occurred, people wanted to use the pretext of disorder in administration, well, this cannot be possible. When we heard that we cannot submit a candidature 24 hours before the election, but usually it's a matter of submitting 7 days before, and exceptionally 3 days. And we are in a situation now where the second candidature, despite what they are trying to say, is not acceptable. It is without the limits of the time provided. Now, if we are not comfortable with having one single candidate, then together we can decide whether we want to accept the second candidature. But we cannot see that people attempt to impose this candidate as if they were entitled to it. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Do you realize that we are debating a topic that should not pose any problem? No, it should not be a problem if the procedure had been followed. But now, if the rules of procedure are silent on this matter, we shouldn't set a precedent. We've always held the election of the chairperson of the Caucus on Youth in the chambers. I don't know where the problem is. And we are electing the chairperson in the same conditions as the vice president. So we can make a decision. Administration is only working with written documents, and if we want, we can make a decision. So I don't know how there are so many points of order and clarification, and we know that the letter is signed the 10th. Point of clarification.
Mr. President, please, this is our right to contest. And something went wrong with your offices, not in our caucus. Please, you are the one who's responsible. It's not in our caucus. Something went wrong in your offices. And we just walk out from the house as a caucus if you deny our right. That's what I'm going to tell you. If you deny our right, we just walk out from the...
Point of information.
La commission de règlement.
The Committee on Rules. The President. Ladies and gentlemen, members of Parliament, I would like to refer this matter to the Committee on Rules for 2 reasons. Firstly, when we announced the candidates yesterday, we did not mention the candidature of the second candidate. It was only confirmed this morning, so we have to redo this, and we have to engage with the Committee on Rules. Yesterday, you did not announce the candidature of Mohamed Aziz. Now give the floor to the Chairperson of the Committee on Rules. The Chairperson of the Committee on Rules, can you please take the floor?
No. Sit down, please. Sit down, please.
Said Rais.
Please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable President. The rules of procedure that governed our Parliament in Rule 15 states, sub-rule 3, it states the following. The name of the candidates for the election of the position of chairperson or deputy chairperson should be submitted for a nomination to the clerk by using the form provided in Annex A at least 6 hours prior to the election. And the form we are referring to is in Annex A, the nomination form that says we, the undersigned, as being voters, nominate the undermentioned person as a candidate at the election of president or vice president. So it's by filling in this nomination form that one can nominate a candidate. And the rules of procedure say that this should occur at least 6 hours prior to the election. So this runs counter to sub-rule 2, that states that the clerk requests the submission of the candidatures 7 days prior to the election. And this can also occur 3 days prior to the election in case of emergency as declared by the President of the Pan-African Parliament. So here, this is the submission that is at stake, the call for candidatures. Therefore, the caucus had the time to meet, to nominate their candidate until 3 days before the election. But the nomination itself, that means submitting the nomination form to the clerk, that can occur 6 hours prior to the election. At least 6 hours prior to the election. So that means that if a candidature was decided by a caucus, and it's only this morning that the form was submitted, the candidature is valid.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dear colleagues, we can decide to postpone the election, given that we received the candidature this morning. We don't have the ballots for the second candidate, so we'll have to print the ballot papers, and therefore we defer the election. Dear colleagues, as we have exhausted our order paper, I now adjourn the meeting, and we will resume at 2:30 p.m.
المعذرة. Yeah, oui.
المعذرة يكون القرار رفع الجلسة.
Apologies, Chair. We need to vote if we want to adjourn the meeting. So with all my respect, it's not up to the President to decide, because the Chamber has the sovereign powers to decide whether we can adjourn the session or not.
Monsieur le Secrétaire Général.
Mr. Clerk, there will be some announcements made by the clerk.
Announce.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are committee meetings taking place today. The Committee on Education, Culture, Tourism and Human Resource are meeting from 11 to 1 o'clock in Committee Room 5. And the Committee on Audit and Public Accounts, CAPA, are meeting from 11:30 to 1 o'clock at Committee Room 4. Thank you.